Are you working on your author career but struggling to get that first book published? Does the goal of being an author seem too lofty? Or thoughts of having multiple books and making a full-time living are as fantastical as living in Cinderella's castle? Welcome to Discovered Wordsmiths, a podcast where aspiring authors can be heard. Join Stephen Schneider as he finds and talks to authors you may not know, but authors that have gotten their foot on the author career path. Hear what they've done to get there and where they want to go now. Settle back. It's time for a bit of inspiration and advice. Come listen to today's Discovered Wordsmith.
Let's talk a little author stuff.
Okay.
We've talked the books, so hopefully we got some people reading it. So you've written several now through the last couple of years. What are some lessons you've learned writing from when you started to now?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much. It's amazing. It's like you started kindergarten, now you're in college, it's such a journey for writing, and nobody's journey is the same. And just in the time period from the very first book, I wrote it in 2013. I was connected with who turned out to be my co-writer for the next two books. We met in 2015 and 2016. We got it published, a contract in 2017. It was released. So it's a long journey in there, I think I've learned more about what works and doesn't work in a book. What's attractive to readers. I hope so. At least we try to be a good writer and learn those things, what is going to appeal to a reader. Because you want your books to be out there and people to buy them. But you really have to research, what are you in this for? Because unless you have, and this is just the truth about it, unless you have lots and lots of money, you can't go into this going, oh, I'm going to write a book. It's going to go on the shelf and I'm going to make $1 million. There's so much more that goes to it, goes along with it. So I want to kind of burst that bubble there, because it is not the truth at all. And you need to have a 5-year plan. I think going into it, where do you want to be in 5 years for your books, with your books, or as an author? My journey has so much that came into it that I never even saw was going to happen. And I'm so grateful for it. But research whether to be traditionally published or self-published. And I say that even more now today, because I just went through being a part of 2 anthologies that were published. They were self-published. And in 8 hours, 29 women, and not even all of us participated. All the ladies, not all of them participated. I did. But within 8 hours, we went to a #1 best-selling Amazon book and stayed in the top 10 for 2 weeks. I'm not sure where we are today because I haven't looked.
It changes.
Yeah, it changes all the time. It changes hourly, actually, with Amazon's algorithm. But, it's so interesting. Because I have worked with someone who's traditionally published. He's actually getting ready to publish his 33rd book, right? And so his mindset is totally traditional route. That's he will not do anything else. That's where he is. And that's okay, because that's worked for him really well. But then I go through this experience and I see what happened, and with the support. So support is very, very important if you're going to be a writer. If you are by yourself and putting a book out there, you're going to struggle unless you have got a lot of support and people who will share your book on Facebook and recommend it to others and post those links for you. And that is one of the most valuable things that you need as an author, is to have that support system of those around you, and networking, so that when you meet folks like Terry Shepard, for instance, right? Then you share things with each other. Hey, will you share this for me? And what can I share for you? And it's a win-win for everybody. But you need to research about getting traditionally published, what all goes with it. And definitely, if you're going to go with a traditional publisher, see if you can talk to some of the authors, find out, go look at their portfolio on their website, and then look at who their authors are. See if you can friend them on Facebook and ask them a question. Hey, do you like your publisher? And what's been your experience with your publisher? Because I want to submit to your publisher. So I think it's really good to do that. And the publishing world is it's like in a closet, and you're not sure where or how you find them, right? Am I,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so you got to do your research. And for self-publishing, I think, you really have to go in and look how much money you're going to put out versus how much are you going to make. Do you have that capability to put out that money? But then you are the owner of everything. You control everything. You're not splitting your money with anyone. So there's plus and minuses, I think, to both worlds. I just think for each person, they have to do their own research. Don't go into it blindsided. You know, I go ahead.
I was going to ask, are your books self-published or traditionally published?
Mine are traditional, except for the anthologies. Those have been self-published by the person who, headed everything up, and all the proceeds of those books go to nonprofits. So that's another
Okay.
thing that's a little bit different. Um,
So you have experienced both sides.
Yes, I have. And so my understanding of mine has changed a little bit about self-publishing and the success of it. But when you've got that collaboration of people to support or be a part of the book or help you getting your links out and sharing, it can make all the difference in the world. There is something that people need to be aware of if you're looking to get published, whether you are lucky enough to land with like a top four, or a medium sized publisher or self publish, you have to do your own marketing. You still have to market your book. You have to bust your hump. It's not a job for people who don't really want to work, unless you just want to publish something to say, hey, I've published a book, and you use it like a business card. And some people do that.
Right, right. So I know a lot of the authors I talk with, uh, there's two routes. You can choose to self publish, or you can choose to pursue traditionally publishing because there's no guarantee that you're going to make it. So,
Right.
how did you get your book published? What did you do to get someone to notice and to say they want this, etc.?
Well, I I was, this is one of the reasons I do my show. This is one of the reasons that I spend time talking to people about the publishing world and giving advice, because I was lucky enough to team up with Thornton Klein. Now, at the time we teamed up together in 2015, we were introduced to each other, and he loved the manuscript for the first book. And he asked me, can I write 10 songs for the book? And I was like, um, yeah, sure. You know, and so they're 10 sweet, beautiful. You can find them on Amazon as well. They're under Perfectly Precious Poolicious, and it's a CD. It's got 10 original songs on it, and they're just beautiful 10, 20, 30-second songs. And my girls ended up going into the recording studio and recorded the music. So it's kind of a family thing that this all turned into. But so Thornton loved it so much. And so I got in with the first book was really, we worked together, and he already knew how to write a pitch, and he already knew how to write a query. And so I learned from him. And so my advice would be, it's that same advice that's been around forever. Whatever you want to do in life, be around someone who's already doing it. Ask if they can mentor you to teach you how to do it the right way. For me, working with Thornton, he's got such a strong, powerful work ethic. I've learned from him what it takes, what it's taking and gonna take to get where you want to be. And that's kind of creeped into all different areas of my life with all the things that we've talked about that I do. And I mean, here's Thornton. Oh my goodness. He's got two books that have movie contracts right now, major motion picture movie contracts. He has he's a songwriter also. He has three artists or four artists that have been number one in the Euro and indie charts just in this year alone. So I mean, I'm talking about, this is a guy who he's never sleeps, I don't think. I mean, he's 65 years old he's writing pop music, and it's going to number one. So, the tenacity, the desire, the drive, the inspiration to move forward and produce has got to be a factor in what you're doing, in order to get where you want to be. So, because he knew how to already do that, he was able to teach me. And then that's how we got our first contract together. And since then, I do ghostwriting as well. And I've done lots of book proposals. So I have learned that whole aspect of it where, you're writing a synopsis, a chapter for each, paragraph in your book, and that's a much lengthier type of pitch. Instead of, we started out with a pitch, just a one-page pitch, and we had a whole marketing plan there. So, think about beyond your book, what else can you do with your book? Can you provide classes or webinars, or, right? You're laughing. So I know yeah, you're like, yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's where my mind has been for a while now. And this summit I've mentioned over the weekend kind of coalesced a few of those thoughts again. And I've come to realize there's a lot of people there this weekend that wanted to be full-time career authors.
Mhm.
Wonderful, great. And that's the purpose of this whole convention. That's nothing to sneeze at. They've got a great choice. But I've come to realize over some time that from what I want to do, I don't want to just write a book after book after book for kids. I've got subsequent things to go with that. So,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, I've realized I just need to go back to my roots, which is I'm an entrepreneur. And right now, my product is this book and all these related services and things I can do for the business. And once that coalesced in my mind, suddenly some things started clicking and I realized it. So, for the lesson there is not everybody should be an entrepreneur and worry about their book secondary. It is figure out what works for you and your writing and do that and continue to do that.
Right.
That's the lesson.
Yeah, and think beyond that. I mean, if you go and research, like, the one people who are very, very successful, you'll hear over and over again, you have to have more than your book. Your book's your business card. And you got to offer services, people who are coaches and things like that. They can use a book to get clients, right? To grow what they're doing. But you really do have, I mean, when we sent the pitch letter for the first Publish's book, we had a whole marketing plan that included all kinds of merchandise and everything that I'm still working on, because there is that opportunity. I just got done finishing up a proposal for someone local here, and they're true stories. Oh my gosh, they're amazing stories. I can't wait to see this published. But I said, okay, what I'm already seeing through this is second and third book, which, don't ever be a one hit wonder. You've got to do more than that, right? And publishers, if you're looking for a traditional publisher, they're like songwriters. I mean, song producers, music producers, they want to see, okay, this person's going to make me money. Because when it comes down to it, how much money are you going to make this person who's going to sign a contract with you and upfront everything? It's just how it is. That's the way the
Right.
business runs,
Today's world is totally different. One
Yeah.
song doesn't make an album, doesn't make a successful group.
Right. And so I'm right in the middle of that with my daughters because they both sing. So we've got two ready, because you always need to have a second one ready after the first one releases. So, yeah. But I would say that, think beyond just your book. What could you teach from it? Does it have a purpose behind it? Does it have education or learning? Can you connect with a college? Can you write curriculum? There's just so many different things. Can you do merch with what you're talking about? Because somebody who's going to take you on is going to want to see how much. What else can you do for me? And I
Right.
don't mean to simplify it like that and make it sound cheap, but in the end of the day, that's really kind of what it boils down to. You'll go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to jump in with, and like you said, there's the indie publishing, there's traditional publishing. Either one can be a good choice for any person, but you have to do the research. You have to know the pros and cons of each and what works for you. For the person that uh, really just wants to sit at home and write, the traditional may be the best thing for them. And then they get a good deal and they hire somebody for publicity. But they need to know that. They need to know themselves. They need to know their brand. They need to know their books and what are publishers looking for. And do, like you said, do the research. You can't just, well, I wrote a great book, hand it to an agent and expect to be that millionaire next week.
Right, right. And you said something in there about um what was it? You touched on a point. See if you can, put aside a budget for a publicist. I didn't have one the first time around. I have one this time. I'd never be without one. I wouldn't, because there are opportunities there that you may not be able to get for yourself, especially self-publishing. It's very hard to be able to get on, unless you're like, you're a go-getter. There are podcasts that you may not ever see or find, and live stream interviews, radio, television. I mean, in the beginning, Stephen, I did all that myself. You know what I mean? I called up the libraries, I called up the radio stations, I called up the TV stations. I got myself booked on all that stuff. But it's so not, and I still do that kind of stuff. But I have a publicist who, it's just been a totally different experience. It's been really, really wonderful and very helpful.
And right there, even again, publicists may work for some people and may not work for others. And there are good publicists and bad publicists. Do your
Right.
research, find out what you need
Absolutely.
and what to look for. And if you do make a mistake and get a bad publicist, well, cut it off and move on and
Yeah.
do better next time. It's a learning thing, if nothing else. I
Oh,
had a book
always.
coach early on that it was, I'll take a lot of the blame now. I was too early in my career to even worry about a book coach. But I said, oh, if I get a book coach, they'll help guide me in the right way. But where I was at and what her coaching was didn't click. So it didn't work out. And I had a bad taste in my mouth. I felt I lost a lot of time and money, but I see now I learned things from that. And I didn't really do any research, or look it up. So I think that's our overall message here for everybody today.
It is, because it's sort of like, but see, that's the same thing that happened to me, Stephen. And I got, it was painful a couple of years ago in 2019 when there was transition happening. Now the publisher that I'm with absolutely love Tuscany Bay Books. Jim is my publisher, and I mean, what I like, he's not huge, but he is very efficient and very much, I can, most of the time I can reach him. I'm not just a number. He calls me, I call him, we have conversations, we talk about the book world, hey, let's come up with this idea. And that is just, after having a bigger publisher who I was a number and a lineup that got attention for this amount of time, and then that was it, and then it was on with the row of books that are coming, you know what I mean,
Right.
along
Conveyor
the row of
belt.
authors that are coming along. Yeah, so you feel like part of the cattle. So I would say it's like, when you get a diagnosis, you need to research what's the doctor has just told you in order to do what you need to do for yourself. And that's the same thing with this. Do your research and check it out. Look into everything that you can. It's so easy on the internet now to research stuff and find out backgrounds. And, is there anyone who said anything against this situation? Or what are people saying that's for this particular, publisher or literary agent? Or, you can usually find those things out. And not everybody's for everybody. Just like when you go to thank goodness restaurants have wide variety of things to eat, because not everything is for everybody, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask this for your writing as the author.
Mhm.
What tools do you use to write?
Sometimes I still write by hand. It just depends on where I'm at. If I do always have a notebook with me. I will say that I learned this from the very first book that came, because it came to me so fast, and I was in the middle of taking care of my newborn. I had to write it down super quick. I learned that, and since then, inspiration comes, and metaphors come, especially if I'm out in nature. If I'm stuck, I go in nature, and I sit there, and I metaphors will come about life for me, and it usually will open up the door if I feel stuck, but it doesn't happen very often. But I do like the creative aspect of it, so I do go in nature as often as I can, and I know that may sound very cliche, but it is really true. It's so peaceful, and nature vibrates at the same vibration as us, so that's why it's always so good to get outside, fresh air, and barefoot as much as you can. And that's being from Florida. I like to be barefoot. But I would say I use the recorder on my phone, the audio recorder, because sometimes in the car things come and I'm like, oh, I need to, because what I learned is that if you don't write it down, even if it's and if you're a writer, this between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, usually at 3 o'clock, you get woken up with some idea and you're like, oh, I'm so tired. No, you got to write it down right then, because it never comes back the same. So that I do use my laptop. Obviously it's with me pretty much all the time. And it's so funny. My 17-year-old daughter is writing a fantasy. She has about 65,000 words, right, in this thing.
Wow.
I know.
How old
I'm
is
like,
she?
17, and she's already a
Nice.
published
I love it.
she's already a published illustrator. So I'm very excited for her. So, but she and I are usually fighting over the tablet. No, no, I need to work right now. She's like, I need to
Well,
write.
finish your book and publish it, and then buy your own iPad. It's a
Absolutely,
business
that's
expense.
exactly what I've said to her, right? So I have my tablet, I have a notebook, and I always, and your audio recorder is always on your phone. So I would say, that's the way I do it. I had to learn, and I always tell people, do not wait for your cabin in the woods or your cottage by the beach. You have to, it's like picking battles in life. You got to find the moments. So I take every single moment, and a lot of times I have to schedule those times. Like, okay, between 1 and 2 today, I'm writing. That is my time, and then I'm zoned in and laser focused, so I can get done what I need to get done. But early mornings are usually. I have not met an author yet who early morning was not one of their best times, because the world hasn't woken up yet. And
Right.
so it's got that real ethereal feel to it, like it's so quiet, and so that's one of my favorite times to write, is early, early in the morning.
Agreed. Agreed. Well,
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth, this has been a wonderful discussion. I've loved talking to you. Before we go, do you have any last minute advice for new authors?
Well, I would say if you have a desire to write, if you have an inkling, if you have a nudging, follow that. Follow that and don't keep putting it off. Like, I wrote this manuscript in 2013 and I put it on the shelf because I was like, I'll save it for my kids. Who wants to read this? I don't know what to do. I don't know a publisher. But I kept getting this like tapping on my shoulder saying, you have to do something with this. So what I learned is that if you don't do it, it never, ever, ever gets done. So you just need to do it. And even if you're not even sure what you want to write, but you want to write, just start writing. Even if you're writing like you're mad at somebody, or you need to process through something that's blocking you from writing, I would say just do it, because if you don't, it never ever gets done. And you're 10 years down the road and 20, and you're like, then you're kicking your butt, right? Why didn't I just do this? Or I have kids and I don't want to hear that. Don't ever say any of that to me, because if I can write in the car rider line, and I can write waiting on in rehearsals and practices, and why the music's on and the TV's on and my little guy's running around, you can do it.
And the I agree with that completely. I love that. Thank you. And there's always the nobody can say anything because Stephen King wrote his first novel in a laundry room at his house while he taught during the day, school. So look where he got. So there's nothing. And we had that this weekend at the writers conference. Honore Corder got up there and said, "So you guys all want to be writers? Yeah. You all want to be a professional writer? Yeah. Who wrote this morning?" Dead silence.
Right,
All
I
right,
know.
let's
If
go
you don't
back.
do it, yeah, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. And did you know that this is one of my Thornton Klein, my writing partner, this is one of his very favorite stories is about Stephen King's Carrie. Did you know he threw it in the trash? You know
Yeah.
that story? Yes. And his wife
And
got it out and said, "Hey, you should do something with this," or whatever she
so,
said to him.
so even Stephen King had that imposter syndrome that I'm not good enough uh,
Right.
inside. He probably doesn't care and feel that way now. But he was that way. And
Who
so,
knows? Maybe he still wonders, why do people read what I write?
oh, I'm sure he does. He said that a few times, but I think all the negative critics kind of have got him like, I don't care. You guys are going to like it or not. Here it is. So that's a good attitude to have. So,
Right.
all right, ma'am, I appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your son this afternoon. It's been a great talk. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Stephen. Yeah, and let's collaborate on something.
Thank you for listening to Discovered Wordsmiths. Come back next week and listen to another author discuss the road they've traveled, and maybe, sometime in the near future, it might be you.